that language that she learned, she was in an oral school system. So almost as soon as the sign language system came out, hearing people looked at it and go, we got to get rid of that. The one thing that unlocked their freedom, the one thing that unlocked their minds, hearing people saw it and said, we have to take that away from them. We have to make them more like us. By doing the sign, they're creating more Wakanda. They're creating an insular sort of closed circuit system of culture, right? And weirdly, this was at a time in American history where those closed circuits of culture were really frowned upon.
They were frowning upon deaf people signing to each other.
Deaf people signing to each other, Italians having their own newspapers, Chinese immigrants, at that time in American history, the idea of creating like an immigrant subculture was really frowned upon. And Alexander Graham Bell, whose parents were deaf like me, had a deaf wife. He became the champion of what was called the oral system. And the oral system was, let's not allow them to sign. Let's teach them to speak. Let's make them like us. Let's make them talk normally and function normally. Let's make them like us. But it was a crazy failure, and it makes sense why, right?
They can't hear the sounds.
They can't hear the sounds. Oliver Sacks said teaching a deaf person without sign is like teaching you Japanese from inside of a soundproof booth by holding up flashcards in Japanese and like putting a symbol next to it. It was like kind of doomed to failure. And then they went through this 200-year reimposed darkness. There was a trial where all the hearing educators decided that deaf people wouldn't sign anymore. They fired all the deaf educators and they pushed them out, and they created this oral system, which really, I mean, it worked for some people, but what it created was you had to be exceptional in order to be average in the deaf world. You know, you had to be a genius in order to get that oral system to work for you, because your natural mode of communication had been kind of stamped out. And then in about the 70s, deaf people started to like kind of rise up and say, fuck that, we're signing.